Hey guys, Giaquinto back with another video talking about some more Sekiro Shadows Die Twice. Now if you watched my previous upload, you would know that I sat down blind with you all and watched the Gamescom gameplay trailer, in which I gave my live initial reaction to everything that was happening, which was absolutely wild. So being that last upload was live, full of my initial reactions and opinions, I feel like there was so much left out of that video because obviously once I hit stop on the brand new, amazing, appealing gameplay that was just introduced to me, there was so much floating around in my head. And I sat there and I said to myself, I want to find a wonderful topic that I can make a second video on, kind of compress some of these thoughts and showcase it to you guys. And that is this video. We're going to be talking about the elements of Sekiro Shadows Die Twice, and where I feel like those elements take inspiration from in other major game titles. I'm noticing so many things, and you'll hear me say it in that last video, just through environment play and stealth, and I feel like that may be pulled from other popular titles that aren't from the Soulsborne series. So just as Bloodborne did before it, Sekiro is truly proving to be a standout in this entire series of games that Miyazaki has given us, and I feel like it's just going to show that once again Miyazaki is at his best when creating a new IP. And I feel like that's because creativity is at its best when you have new inspiration. And I feel like that new inspiration is going to pay off once we play the end product, that is Sekiro Shadows Die Twice. So with that being said, let's get into some of the great elements that are being introduced to us and where I feel like that inspiration is being pulled from. Looking back at the Gamescom gameplay demo, we're dropped onto a tree branch and we're introduced in front of us to something that we never received in a past Miyazaki title release. And that's the amount of layering and levels and the landscape that is put out in front of us. We can use this to not only capitalize on stealth, but use it to take out challenges and obstacles that are ahead. What does this remind you of? It's none other than the notorious giant known as Assassin's Creed. Assassin's Creed became massive because it introduced you to the single-player experience in which this beautiful, vast and amazing environment was put in front of you to be used. Just as you see in the Sekiro demo, you can scale a ledge and get what is known in Assassin's Creed as a drop kill, pulling the enemy down and serving him his end. And just like in Assassin's Creed, you can scale to high elevations and drop down on your enemy. Through this, you're avoiding engagement, you're saving health, and you're making those situations to where you're about to be introduced to a group or a really bad scenario much easier for yourself, and that's really important. Adding on to the comparison further, I feel like Miyazaki is going to introduce us to some truly beautiful maps and landscapes to where we're just going to sit back and adore scenery. But the difference is, when looking back on games such as Bloodborne and Dark Souls, instead of looking, we can actually go to the things that we're curious about. And through adoring the environment, we're given an advantage because we're studying what we're surrounded by and how we can use that to engage enemies. But what's the biggest curiosity when it comes to this topic about, once again, using the environment to go about your challenges? What about bosses? And I mentioned this in my previous video. Are we gonna have levels and elevation that we can use to benefit in these challenging boss fights coming up? Obviously at Gamescom, anyone who attended had to stop filming when challenging the boss that was in the demo, but I did hear that a lot of people had a hard time with this boss. I haven't seen any videos about anybody getting into fine detail on what that fight was like, but if you know anything, definitely feel free to comment below. Next up, I want to look at this new take on tough melee engagements and where I think they got the inspiration for that from, but before we do that, let's rewind this clip. So the swordsman on the steps in the previous clip is going to be our focus point for the melee engagement topic. However, I wanted to rewind to this point right before that engagement to show you how beneficial it can be to kill the smaller outside enemies from these hideaway points, just to give yourself an easier time in the tougher fights. Let's have a look at this. So now we're going to take on a significantly tougher enemy. Now imagine being in a situation to where you would have just ran in blindly without looking about the situation at hand, and you just went in blazing and swinging. You would have had a much harder time. As you can see, the new melee system isn't just a matter of running up to an enemy like you would in Dark Souls and just dodging around a few times and then 1, 2, 3, target dead. In this game, it's all about staying engaged with your enemy and timing your swings, your blocks, and obviously any visceral opportunities you have to benefit and gain amazing DPS on your target. This reminds me of the game For Honor in comparison. These close camera, really personal and upfront melee engagements to where you're more or less trying to read the opponent. And by reading the situation at hand correctly, you can turn the tide in your favor. Now, these enemies do have unblockable moves according to some of the demo videos that I watched. In that situation, you would dodge. You can dodge in this game, but there is a high priority towards blocking and timing, and obviously using that to perform a reversal of sorts that would open up a visceral and help you take your enemy out. So definitely some For Honor inspiration that at least I personally am seeing there. Now in this next clip we're going to see the Prosthetic Tool being used, and this is just another element that I think they're pulling from not only a game, but something that is staple amongst people's childhoods. If you're familiar with your superheroes, you would know who Batman is, and I think that they got inspiration for the prosthetic tools from Batman and the Batman games. Not in a sense that they're used the same way, but Batman fights with all these utilities that help him benefit in situations. And the same goes for the character that we play as in Sekiro. Obviously he lost his arm, but in place he is given something that might in the end benefit him even more. Closing out the topic of superheroes, I wouldn't be surprised if the grapple hook idea was partially inspired off our favorite web-slinging hero, Spider-Man. The fact that you sling around from objects to buildings and higher elevations to get the upper edge on your opponent. It would be cool if they got the idea from one of the games. And oh, I know what most of you are going to say next. How are you going to put Spider-Man before Tenchu with the grapple? Listen, I got you. Let me put this all together. There is no doubt in my mind, and it's not only the frickin' grappling hook, that the embodiment and base for what Sekiro is came from Tenchu. The inspiration, the design, and even some of the gameplay mechanics. Using stealth to your advantage. I would like to say that Sekiro is a nice blend of Assassin's Creed mixed with some of the stealth gameplay of Tenchu, mixed with what Miyazaki has been so damn good at, and that is making difficult and truly unique and achieving experiences for the players who pick up anything that he's put out. We could look at Sekiro like the undead crazy wild version of this, but yes, a big nod to Tenchu hands down, because the inspiration is all over the place on this one. Now, this next tiny element's completely one-off, but look at the closing combo for the shuriken. Look familiar? Throwing and hitting with the shuriken will make you close in for a nasty combo, just like the close-in final smashes in Smash Brothers. It's a long way off, but it would be super cool if they got the inspiration from there. And that is it for the video. Those are some of the elements and pieces of inspiration, at least in my opinion, that I think made up the end result that was this project and the game, wonderful experience that we're going to get in Sekiro Shadows Die Twice. Definitely feel free to let me know where you think the game pulled elements of inspiration from. I love hearing people's opinions on anything regarding just art and creativity, and I don't know, what motivates people. And I'm definitely curious to know what you guys think motivated Miyazaki to finally put out a Eastern-based game. It looks absolutely wonderful. If you guys enjoy Soulsborne, and if you're excited for Sekiro content, definitely feel free to subscribe to the YouTube channel. And if you enjoyed the video, definitely feel free to leave a like. A lot of time and effort went into this, and at the end of the day, I just want you guys to enjoy it, because you guys are spending your time here hanging out with me. Therefore, I definitely hope that I make it worthwhile. So thank you guys so much for watching. This has been Gia. Have a good night. Later.